Hey guys, TommyBryson here, and welcome back to the channel. And we're going to be taking a look at The Old Money book by Byron Tully. Now, the author almost feels like he actually wrote this book to his kids or to people he actually cares about, and he put all his values and principles and ideas in one place. So there is a lot to actually learn in this book, but there are some strong ideas that I don't agree with, and some ideas that I actually do agree with. And I'm going to share with you guys both. But I do my book review videos a lot more different than the average person. It's more like almost like a summary, because when I'm reading a book, I'm looking for nuggets, and nuggets are small pieces of information that add value to your life in some way. And some books have one nugget, some books have 0 nuggets, and that might mean, for example, it was a total waste of time. Now, if you wanted to go ahead and grab this book on Amazon, you could actually find it for around $2.99 over on Kindle. However, though, is it actually worth it? Because it's not like you're paying $3 and that's it. It's more like you're paying $3 having to read 158 pages, and that might take you 4 hours. So is it worth making that time investment overall? And in this video, I'll tell you if it's worth it or not. Now, for the first part, I want to talk about the positives, and then I'll tell you about the negatives, and then I'll tell you if it's actually worth it or not. Now, let's get right into it, and do me a favor and smash the like button. Now, the very first thing I learned in this book was basically etiquette and also manners. Now, when I was growing up as a kid, I basically just got manners as, hey, don't chew with your mouth open, and that's basically it for table manners, as for the most part. But in this book, it actually taught me that, hey, if you have like 4 forks and you have 3 spoons and they're on each corner and on top of the plate, what are you supposed to do? You know, where do you drink from if there are multiple glasses, okay? How do you actually place your forks once you're done with the meal? If you like the meal, if you didn't like the meal, or if you want to continue actually eating your next course. And these are all things that to me always seem like excessive, too fancy, but I liked having the information and the ability to actually know what to do in any scenario. And one big thing is knowing how to dress at the right location. I always took pride that I just dress the same wherever I go, but no, there are certain scenarios where you have to dress appropriately for the event, and knowing exactly what to do and not to do is super important. Now, the second thing I actually learned about in this book is about the importance of traveling, to actually see the world, to explore. And when you actually do this, it's not like when you look at travel on social media or on TV, or when you talk to your friends who usually are poor also, you might get the idea that traveling is all about staying at some hotel, drinking, and then basically just sleeping and not doing anything. But to the author, he's more like, hey, no, when I go traveling, I want to explore, I want to learn, I want to see the culture, I want to basically live that way just while I'm there. And that actually opens up your eyes, and you basically cease to be ignorant, and it can kind of end a lot of perceptions that you had about certain people when you actually get to see how things actually work. And he talks about that basically some folks say, I can't travel, I can't afford it, but these are the same people that have, for example, fancy cars with fancy car payments every single month, the same women that have these $500 or $300 or $200 purses. So the real deal is, if you want to travel, you have to make it a priority. And people that are rich, what they like to do is they like to plan ahead. They like to know where they're going, what they want to see, and what they're going to do. And they're planning months ahead. So me and my wife, we actually want to go to Lima, Peru, and tickets for like over $1,000. But if I book a ticket now, and right now I think it's like September, if I book it for March of next year, guess what? I can get it for like $500. And that's the benefit of planning and saving and executing things appropriately. There is massive value. I used to think that like traveling was just a waste of money, that traveling is something you only do once you basically made it to being wealthy or whatever, but it's something that adds value to you if you do it correctly. Just canceling out your cable bill or your fancy phone bill and some subscriptions out there could potentially give you enough money to travel once a year, and that's more than enough to experience some things. Now, the third thing I learned about is quality clothes and furniture. I've always taken pride in being the type of person that does not care about brands, and it turned to be kind of reorganized to make different outfits where if you wear that 5 years from now, you're still going to be in style. Byron kind of feels like we have a lot of similarities here. But then he also mentioned some things that I was actually missing. He said, yes, buy quality clothing, even if it's used, but just make sure, for example, you're buying timeless clothing. And what that basically means is the goal is not to buy a bunch of quality clothing and have like a closet full of all the stuff and just have clutter. No, buy clothes that you can use for multiple occasions, where each piece can be kind of reorganized to make different outfits, where if you wear that 5 years from now, you're still going to be in style. Not buying things based on trends and fashion or whatever. No, buy quality goods. I'd rather, for example, 10 times these days pay $100 or $150 for a pair of leather shoes that I know are going to last me the next 5 to 7 years if I take care of it, then buy, for example, some cheap shoes at some retail store that cost like $20 or $25 that just kind of like in the next few months is just going to be tacky, out of style, and also worn out. Sometimes it does make better to buy clothes that are quality based because in a way it is an investment. So that's going to be buy quality, not brand, and buy timeless clothing. That is so important. And don't be afraid to buy used clothing and also, for example, used furniture. Buy quality furniture that can last you like a generation and then you can pass it on to the next generation. That's true. Unless you shop at IKEA, okay? Which is great. I love IKEA, but it's not the same when it comes to passing on furniture to the next generation. Now, the fourth thing I learned about is that rich people, they can hire staff. Staff and to do services for you. For example, yeah, you can hire someone to clean for you, to clean your yard, to also potentially cook for you, But you want to be very careful with the idea that, well, I have enough money now, so I'm going to hire someone to delegate the tasks that I don't want to do. Because there are certain tasks that you don't want to do, but you should be the person doing it. For example, you shouldn't be trying to delegate spending time and raising up and basically instilling value into your kids. You shouldn't be trying to, for example, to say, I'm just going to have my wife do all these fancy things, but I'm not going to spend time with her. So there are things that as a man, as a woman, that you should be doing whether you like it or you don't, because they are your responsibility. So I like the idea a lot of hiring staff and treating them with respect and also having limits in place. And he even had an example here that that trust is something that's earned over the years, but respect is something that is given universally. So you bring someone on as staff to your house to come clean for you once a week or twice a week, whatever you want to do. And basically, if something goes missing, you don't tell them, did you take this stuff, right? It's more like, did you see this? And if they say no, you go ahead and you file a police report and you tell them, hey, I filed a police report. They might be coming to talk to you, but you're not, trying to say you did it or whatever. It's treating everyone with respect, but also knowing that trust is earned over years and locking up your valuables, okay? Super, super important. Now, socializing, number 5. I learned that rich people, or old money, which is the whole concept of this book, it's not like the sparkling rich, but old money loves to socialize. But old money is not just based on, quantity, it's more based on quality. So I like to socialize, but it's mostly with my family, with my close friends, and with my church and so on. But beyond that, and I like meeting new people, that is true, but for the most part, I like keeping things like tight and investing into my current relationships, and to me, that means a lot. And it's also very interesting, but rich people or old money, they go to conferences, they go to places to socialize, to actually meet people. And I think that's something that I've actually been lacking in, so I should consider that, because sometimes my circle, I have not that many friends. I have the same friends for the past like I don't even know, decades now, honestly. But it could serve me as a benefit to add more people to my circle, and I could do that by going to certain events and just talking to people and so on. So socializing is very important. Now, number 6 is going to be, I learned about the importance of reading. Now, just for fun here, this is a book, obviously. This is a video about a book. So obviously, I read the book. Here's what I've learned, okay? I've tried just about everything to improve my reading. This is not an ad, by the way. I tried my iPad, right? It did not work. I tried physical books. It did not work. I tried a Kindle. It did not work. The truth is, the best way to read more books and to dedicate yourself to reading is to do what I call replacement habits. And that basically just means is replace habits that you don't really like with something and create an environment with zero distractions. So your phone is a massive destructor of attention. I don't even know where my phone is right now because I try to keep it not around me when I'm actually trying to work. So what I like about the Kindle is what I read in the book is here I can only read and that's about it. So I have the book here, I'm reading, but around me I have nothing. And when you're going to be raising kids, instead of having screen time, have reading time and read a lot of books, okay? I'm big on nonfiction books because I'm big on, nonfiction. I'm big on those because I do a lot of stuff on finance and money and all this stuff, but I should also be reading, like the author says, like Byron says, I should also be reading books on philosophy. I should also be reading books on plays, on poems, on biographies, on just historical books. You just become like a Renaissance man. And that is super important, not just be one dimension, but that's how you can be more interesting, right? Even when you're having conversations with people, having a vast amount of knowledge and just information, and that could be a lot more valuable. By the way, I do want to add something to the socializing part of this book. I've also learned that there are certain things that have made me uncomfortable when I'm talking to people that I don't know, basically, and it's the idea of personal questions. People ask a lot of personal questions, it's like they feel like it's their right to know these answers. For example, knowing what somebody does for a living is a personal question. And knowing what car you drive is also a personal question. And I've learned in this book that if there is a question that you don't want to answer, it's okay. You can say, I don't really talk about that. But what's your passion? And you can just switch things around. And if they're polite, they're actually going to understand it, take the hint, and then move on to the next part of the conversation. I think that's super valuable. There are so many things here that just teach you manners and etiquette in this book that I really, really do like. Now, number 7 is going to be housing. I learned something early on, and I'm happy that Byron also agrees with it, but buying a house is not something that you do for status. And rich people or old money, for example, they care about, number 1 is safety, having a safe place to actually call home. And affordability is super important. So knowing exactly that where you're actually going to be living, you can actually afford it. And also functionality, that it actually makes sense for you. Having a massive house that you can't clean, that's going to be massive upkeep, it doesn't really make that much sense. The whole goal of actually having a home is to own a home, and that way you can be good to go. There is an idea that he says, which is basically don't buy a house early on. It's okay to just rent. I agree with that, but I do think that the main goal should be to buy a home, pay it off, and that way your cost of living is a lot lower. Now, number 8, the 8th thing I actually learned was about privacy. For a long time, I've had concerns with social media and how people feel so open with just sharing every aspect of their life. And me being, for example, the different one where I'm not doing that, it kind of made me feel weird. Maybe I am the weird person that doesn't just post what they eat, where they go, what they're doing, what I think all the time. And I learned that rich people are like that. They keep their private lives private. They keep things private. If they go do something, it's private. Not everything is basically shared on social media. What's actually helped me understand this concept a lot more is reading a lot of books on dopamine, minimalism, and also just trying to stay away from technology. Because for the most part, these are all just tools that have just one goal in mind: to keep your attention on their tool, to keep your attention on Instagram, for example, to take up your time so they can make more money from you. And once you understand that, is that what I'm doing is participating in putting out content to just basically have more attention or whatever. And that's the truth about it. Now, number 9 is don't solve emotional problems with money. People do that, If you think that buying a car is going to make you, for example, more confident, that's not true. If you think wearing a suit is going to make you more confident, that's not true. If you think posting things on social media, going on vacation, spend this money on that is going to make you more popular, that's not true. If you think buying a bunch of books and having them in an office is going to make you smarter or look smarter, that's not true. You just don't try to fix emotional problems with money because it doesn't work. You work on your emotional problems with work, talking, conversation, facing things. That's what you actually need to do. And I've learned that, okay? So one big thing for me was cars. I wanted to have like a Cayenne Porsche. And I was like, why? And when I started thinking about it, I'm like, why do I want this car? And the truth is that I would tell myself, I just like it. But the truth is that it's not just that I like it, it's why do you want it? Is it because it runs better? There are cars that run just as good. Is it because it's reliable? No, it's not actually that reliable. But the real answer was it was status. It was how people look at you with those things. And I've grown a lot since then, and I'm happy to say that because I don't think that way anymore. But these are honest questions you gotta ask yourself. Or thinking that there's someone that doesn't like you, or you have a friend that you feel like you need to take them out and treat them and give them gifts, or a girlfriend or a boyfriend. I give my girlfriend a lot of gifts because I want her to love me. That's an emotional issue. If some things that you're giving to someone is what making them actually love you, then that's not real. If you know what I mean, okay? And lastly, number 10, don't raise annoying kids. Teach them manners and also teach them to read early on. I think that's so true. For a very long time, there's this perspective on like out there that kids are just annoying. And kids cannot be disliked. There are kids that you will dislike because they are annoying, and that's very true. So as a parent, if you want to have kids, which I highly recommend, it's a blessing. If you do have kids, you raise your kids with manners. You take screen time away, and for me, it's probably gonna be in totality, and you give them books, and not just, hey, read this book. You read with your kids. You share ideas with your kids. You educate them. You teach them. You instill values in them. A lot of parents are very passive in their kids' improvement because what they want to do is to have their kids just improve on their own and not put in work. No, it's a part of your work to read with your kids and to teach them how to read and to actually make it an event in a way and make it something good in the household. So I think that's super important, man. Now, those are the things I learned in this book, and here are the things I actually don't like about this book and things that I just don't really agree with that much, okay? Byron, and that's the author, by the way, he takes a lot of pride in education. I generally don't, so his big thing is that you should focus on your kids' education, putting them in the best school possible, and teaching them as much as you can so you could actually get a great career and then follow this and through and then basically make more money or whatever and basically pass your money on to them. I think education for the most part is overrated. And when I say education, I mean like standard education, whether it's in a private school or whether it's in a public school. I really couldn't care less for it, okay? I really like the Amish idea of educating your kids until like 13 and then putting them to work with you at home, and then that's where school basically ends, because for the most part, it's just ridiculous. Like, why does someone need to be in school for 18 years? And why would me as a parent have to move to a more expensive neighborhood and pay thousands of dollars more just for my kid to actually go to some fancy school or whatever? I don't agree with that. And I rather, for example, have my kids be in homeschool because I don't see the value in that for the most part. I went to school in not the great spot, okay, but my education came from a lot of books and like self-education, and to me that's a lot more valuable in that than just like all those other things. Now the second thing I don't really agree with the author is on, he talks about engagement when you're actually searching for a partner, and he says that a 3-year engagement is actually pretty good because it gives you time to prepare for the wedding, to get your finances in order, and to actually see how this person is or whatever. I don't agree with that. I don't like long engagements because an engagement is just the next step to marriage, right? Then short engagements are usually best. I like the Dave Ramsey idea of you're either gonna paint or get down from the ladder. I don't like the idea. He also mentions that in this 3-year engagement, try not to have kids. So also implies that you're actually doing things you're not supposed to do in marriage. By the way, I'm a Christian. I believe these things. So the idea of that is just ridiculous. I do prefer, if you're going to be getting to know someone for 3 years, then do that if you want to, okay? But what do you need to find in 3 years? It's usually you preparing to get married. And if you're not prepared to get married, then don't go out there searching for someone to get married, in the first place. I just don't really care about that idea. But that's the whole thing. So I don't like that 3-year engagement concept. So if you're going to be searching for a mate, get ready first and then find them. If you already think you find them, stay in that friend zone until you actually are ready to actually get engaged and then get married. That's the whole idea. But don't do things that married people should do because you want to wait and prepare. That's not a good idea. It's not, for the most part. And then he also mentions about limiting kids, and he almost like puts it in the way that, you know, have one kid, have two kids, isn't a really big deal. The world's not gonna end because of it. And I don't really like that idea because it almost looks at kids like as something that's going to be like a liability in a sense. If you have too many kids, it's gonna be a problem, right? And to me, kids are a blessing, man. It's the way I actually view things. I don't like how things are going in the sense that, you know, don't have any kids, they're a liability, or have one or two, that's about it, you know. I don't like that concept because I come from like Christian values, and these are things I acquired like later on in life, but I really do value them. So I think kids are a blessing. I think education is overrated, and I think having a long engagement where you're doing whatever you want to do to then get married potentially or drop it, I don't think it's fair for the woman, and I don't think it's fair for the man in the relationship. So I think you engage when you know you want to marry, and you marry then, okay? That's basically it. But overall, guys, do I think this book is actually worth over $80? Because it took me over 4 hours to read at $20 an hour. It's more like $80 or whatever for the average person. The answer is I do think it's worth it. But I do think that when you're reading books like these, where the author is very pinpoint on what he believes and what he thinks, you have to go in there understanding that at the end of the day, Byron Tully is just a guy. He is just a person. So he has values and perspectives that you may not agree with. And if you don't agree with them, it doesn't mean that you are wrong. It's okay to disagree with someone, because sometimes we kind of think that if it's in a book, it must be true. No. And if it's in a book, it must be the best thing. No. There are people that have good concepts on one thing and then bad concepts on something else. So it's worth the read, but just make sure when you're reading, you keep your own values and perspectives in play so you know what you're actually saying yes to and what you're saying no to. One big thing that I disagree with the author was like the whole idea of like, oh, you have to have these table manners. Oh, I'm like, that's so fancy, that's so stupid, right? But then I see his argument, I was like, his argument makes a lot of sense. I should know how all these things work, and I should be on the table sharing a meal and not gobbling my food down like I'm an animal, you know? So it's this balance of what am I wrong in, what am I not wrong in, and what is this author absolutely crazy about, you know? So that's the main thing. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope this video actually helped you in some way. If you're interested in more book review videos, I will be making more. I'm gonna try to make one every single week. So subscribe to the channel. If you made it all the way to this part of the video, which most people don't, comment down below I made it, so I know you made it all the way to the end. Thanks for watching. Long-term team out, and peace.